Joining me now is the film's producer and director, Dan Farah. Dan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Happy to have you. What inspired you to make The Age of Disclosure?
So my childhood was the 80s and early 90s, and I grew up on movies like Close Encounters and E.T. that just piqued my curiosity and made me curious about these big questions like, are we alone in the universe? Have we been visited by intelligent life from elsewhere? And does the government know more about these matters than we do, than the public do? And so later in my life, when I got into filmmaking, I focused largely on producing. I produced Ready Player One, the Spielberg movie, and it was when watching him direct in person that I got inspired to want to direct something. And I kept coming back to this documentary because I always wish a film like this existed that only interviewed people who have direct knowledge of this topic as a result of working for the U.S. government. Credible, non-sensational, serious doc that gives those people a platform to reveal what they lawfully can. And so I became determined to make that the first film I directed and to pull it off. The Disclosure is basically the movie that I always wish existed.
Yeah. What will people find in this documentary?
So I interviewed 34 very high level military, government, and intelligence officials who all collectively break their silence to reveal an 80-year cover-up of the existence of non-human intelligent life. And on top of that, they reveal that elements of the U.S. government are involved in a deeply hidden, long-running secret Cold War race with adversarial nations like China and Russia to reverse engineer this technology of non-human origin. And the stakes couldn't be higher. And as extraordinary as that all sounds, the people I interviewed couldn't be more credible. Sitting senators from both sides of the aisle, Marco Rubio, who's now our Secretary of State, our National Security Advisor, Kristen Gillibrand from New York, General Jim Clapper, admirals, former head of aviation security on the White House National Security Council, high-level intelligence officials. It's a collection of 34 people who have, in some form or another, been entrusted with the safety of our nation, and they're all breaking their silence with what they can lawfully disclose, what they can lawfully share with the public, to open our eyes and bring about disclosure.
How did you select these 34 individuals, and how willing were they to open up to you?
The 34 people I interviewed on camera were the people that were willing to step up and speak their truth, go on the record on camera. There were a number of people that would only speak to me off the record, that wouldn't go on camera. They felt they would be in danger for speaking up. They felt they would have their careers or reputations ruined by the people who had been covering this topic up. It was these 34 people that made the brave decision to go on the record and speak up on camera. And I spent at least a year forming relationships with the people I interviewed, gaining their trust, making sure they understood how I understood this was a serious topic and that I would treat it right. I wouldn't make a sensational film. I really earned their trust and confidence that I would put them in a film that was worthy of them breaking their silence in.
What specific evidence does the film present to support its claims of a government cover-up?
So, in my opinion, the strongest evidence that exists is this film. These 34 high-level military, government, intelligence officials speaking up, going on the record, putting their name and reputation on the line. You know, senior members of the intelligence community, senior members of government, senior members of the military. They're putting their reputation and their names on the line to share what they lawfully can and to inform the public. To me, that's the greatest evidence, because we live at a time where you could put a 4K video of a giant UFO over a military base on your news show, and half your audience will think it's created by AI or some Hollywood visual effects. But what you can't fake with visual effects or AI is someone putting their credibility on the line. I interviewed sitting senators from both sides of the aisle that aspire to be president one day. They have a lot to lose, right? Doesn't benefit them to go and say anything crazy or some elaborate lie. The people that I interviewed are breaking their silence on what they lawfully can because they think it's important for the public to finally find out the truth. Mm-hmm. And something that's important to remember is the people I interviewed only reveal what they lawfully can. there's a whole lot more on the other side of the line they can't cross. There's a lot of profound information that is still classified. And I think that the film sets the stage for a sitting president to finally be able to comfortably step to the microphone and at least tell us the base facts that we're not alone in the universe, that the US is engaged in a Cold War race with adversarial nations to crack this technology, and that there are high stakes. I think the film sets the stage for that to finally happen. And I think it's only a matter of time before it does.